The Arizona Cardinals have hired Jonathan Gannon to be their next head coach. Gannon lost in the Super Bowl as the Eagles' defensive coordinator, and now makes the move to head coach for the Cardinals on a 5-year contract. The Cardinals had 2 other finalists for the job: Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo and Giants offensive coordinator Mike Kafka. The Cardinals were connected to 8 other candidates, but owner Michael Bidwell ultimately landed on Gannon. Jonathan Gannon played safety at Louisville. He redshirted his true freshman year and was the defensive scout team player of the year. In his first collegiate start the following season, Gannon suffered a freak hip injury that ended up ending his career. The injury was reportedly similar to the hip injury that ended Bo Jackson's NFL career. Gannon tried to come back the next year, but his hip just wasn't right. Head coach Bobby Petrino helped devise a plan that made sure Gannon stayed on scholarship, and he became a student assistant. He followed Petrino to the NFL in 2007 to be the Falcons' defensive quality control coach before becoming a scout for the Rams. Gannon returned to coaching in 2012 as a Titans defensive quality control coach, and later was the Vikings assistant defensive backs coach. He got his first true positional coaching gig in 2018 as the Colts defensive backs coach under Frank Reich. Gannon left to be the Eagles' defensive coordinator in 2021 and spent 2 years in the role before finally getting the call to be a head coach by the Cardinals. Arizona fired Kliff Kingsbury after 4 years as the Cardinals' head coach. He was hired with no pro experience and a lot of failure at the college level, but he did have success developing a few quarterbacks, most notably Patrick Mahomes. The Cardinals fell short of expectations almost every season under his guidance. Arizona didn't win the NFC West at all, but did qualify for the postseason once, where the Cardinals lost in the wild card round. Arizona went 11-6, but ended up being horrible in 2022, finishing 4-13, which led to the firing of Kingsbury and eventually the hiring of Jonathan Gannon. The huge elephant in the room with the Cardinals is Kyler Murray. A rumor did fly around that Sean Payton didn't have the interest in the Cardinals job because of Kyler, but Payton did say that wasn't the case. It's hard to really know what's true or not there, but it's no secret that Kyler Murray is a serious concern in Arizona. First and foremost, Murray did tear his ACL later in the season and is currently recovering, but he's going to miss out on some very valuable offseason time to learn a new offense and to figure out the new regime coming in. Arizona is going to need a veteran presence just in case, but hopefully he's ready to go come the regular season. The concerns around him are much bigger than that. He didn't perform well this past season, even when he was healthy, and Kyler has disappointed often in his career. There were surely some flashes of brilliance and his raw talent that caused the Cardinals to take him first overall, but it's been 4 seasons, and Kyler still hasn't truly proven to be an elite quarterback. That leaves a major issue for Arizona, considering his 5-year, $230.5 million extension doesn't even kick in until after next season. There's a lot of money tied up in Kyler Murray, and clearly a lot of concerns when it comes to his maturity or focus. His original contract did have a clause in it that required him to study film and essentially do homework in order to make that money. Yes, Arizona took it out of the contract after it had a lot of backlash, but it's still very telling that a team felt the need to put that in a deal for their supposedly franchise quarterback to actually take the time to study. The Cardinals' offense has a lot of questions that need to be answered. The offensive line was rough, and it might look even more different next year. DeAndre Hopkins is a very hot topic to get traded this offseason, and that'll surely shake up Kyler Murray's receivers. The Cardinals did trade for Marquise Brown last offseason to pair him with his old college quarterback Kyler Murray, and Brown was solid and had 700 yards, but a need for a true number 1 is going to be there if Hopkins is dealt. James Conner was still a good red zone threat in 2022, not to the tune of 2021, but there is a reason why the Cardinals inked him to a 3-year extension ahead of last season. There are a lot of mysteries about the future of the offense in Arizona, but whoever Gannon hires to be his offensive coordinator is going to be key. Not hiring an offensive-minded guy to pair with Murray kind of feels risky in my opinion. but it's up to Gannon to find the right guy now. The Cardinals defense should be in a good spot with Jonathan Gannon running the show alongside whoever he hires as his defensive coordinator. Gannon had a lot of good players on that Eagles roster. It won't be near to the same degree in Arizona. I mean, the retirement of J.J. Watt leaves a massive hole in the Cardinals pass rush that already had plenty of issues. Budda Baker is the best player on that unit. He's proven to be one of the better safeties in the league, but there are a lot of things to figure out on that defense. There are some pieces to help build around though, like Isaiah Simmons. Luckily for the Cardinals, they own the 3rd overall pick at the 2023 NFL Draft, and I would expect them to use that pick on the best player available. It'll likely be a guy like Will Anderson off the edge from Alabama, or Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter if he even makes it to 3. I'm not gonna lie, the Arizona Cardinals are kind of a mess right now. It seemed for a couple of years, especially towards the beginning of Kliff Kingsbury's tenure at head coach, that the Cardinals were on the cusp of a Super Bowl run, but it just never panned out like it was supposed to. Now, the Cardinals are in this weird gray area between being in a rebuild and still having some serious playmakers on that roster. Now, I don't hate the Gannon hire, but with the lack of success on offense, especially with Kyler Murray as quarterback, I would have thought that they would have gone after like an offensive-minded guy, especially since the offense probably has the biggest question marks going into this next season. Now, it's all going to be on the guy that Gannon appoints to be his OC. Speaking about the offense, that offensive line needs help ASAP. If anything, that's something that's really held the Cardinals back since Murray's come into the league. D-Hop is also a huge question mark. It's still up in the air of whether or not he plans on returning to Arizona, but I'd be willing to bet that he doesn't and he goes somewhere else. So that means that Kyler is going to have to make do with the weapons that he already has. And even with D-Hop, the dude's kind of struggled. Also, Kyler isn't really going to have that much time to build up chemistry on the field with his team or coaches, because there's a potential that he doesn't even return until like halfway through next season. Now, that's just speculation. He could return before the next season even starts, but I highly doubt that as well. But regardless, that alone is going to make it difficult for the Cardinals to perform on the field next year. I like the Cardinals, and I really want to see them succeed, but there are a ton of holes that need to be filled before they can start doing that. I don't anticipate the Cardinals to go out and do anything crazy in Gannon's first year at the helm, and that's okay, because now's the time for Arizona to truly build a complete roster. Not just getting the quarterback, not just getting wide receiver weapons, but really setting up that offense to succeed. Because like I said earlier, that offensive line has really hindered the Cardinals from being able to succeed. Kyler Murray, since he's come into the league, has run for his life every year. And I can honestly say that's probably contributed to some of his lack of success. Now, there are plenty of other variables why Kyler Murray has been lackluster in his career so far, especially talking about that contract thing where he had to study. But regardless, I think Kyler Murray does have what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. Now, the thing we need to see from Kyler before we really put that label of franchise quarterback on him is, can he be dependable week in and week out? We can't have Kyler coming in, throwing for 400 yards, going off one game, and then coming in the next game and throwing 3 or 4 picks. He has to get better at being consistent. And I truly think if the Cardinals with a new GM, new head coach, can put new pieces on that offensive line, that would be huge for the Arizona Cardinals offense. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, I think they're going to be a-okay. The Cardinals defense wasn't the low light of their team last year, and Gannon's a defensive-minded guy, so, everything should kind of work out on that side of the ball. Of course, you have the retirement of J.J. Watt, which is going to kind of hinder that defensive line pass rush, but they still have great players. They still have Allen on that line. Isaiah Simmons is great. They got a bunch of other players on that defense that are really good playmakers that should be there for years to come. So for the defense, I'm not really as worried as I am about the offensive side of the ball. But regardless, like I said, I really want to see Arizona succeed. I just don't think that's going to happen this year. There's a lot of things that need to happen, and the good thing for Gannon is he's got time. He signed a 6-year contract, and hopefully Gannon's going to be able to put it all together and help Arizona finally get over that hump.